Access Chapter 2. In this video, I will show you how to create queries in Design View, include fields in the design grid, use text and numeric data criterion, create parameter queries, use comparison operators with criterion, and create and/or compound queries. Here I have a database with one table. It contains a list of college students, their birth dates, genders, graduation years, majors, and GPAs. I want to find answers to some questions related to this data. Creating a query in Access is how we find these answers. A query poses a question to the data. For example, let's say I wanted a list of only the students who graduate in 2013. Create a query in Design View by clicking on the Create ribbon and then selecting Query Design. Next, we select the table that contains the data that we want to run the query on. We only have one choice in this case. Click Add, then Close. Now we decide what fields we want to see in our query. You can do this by double-clicking in this window here, or you can click in the field row here and use the drop-down arrow button. Now I have to type the criteria that I am looking for in the criteria row and in the correct column. I want only 2013 graduates, so I will type 2013 under the grad year column in the criteria row. Last, I click the Run button. The result is a query. Save it by clicking on the X button to the right, choosing Yes, then naming it. As you can see, the query is added to the objects list to the left. Now let's reopen that query and make changes to it. I want to change this query into a parameter query. This is a query that allows you to type new criteria into a field every time it is opened. First, I will double-click on the query to open it. To change the design of the query, click on the View button and choose Design. To change this to a parameter query, delete 2013 and replace it with open square bracket, enter grad year, closed square bracket. Now run the query. The query asks us for the grad year. I will type 2014. If I close this query and save the changes, every time I reopen it, it will ask me for the new parameter. Now let's create a query using comparison operators and explore and/or queries. Let's say I want a list of all students with a GPA above 3.5. I will create a new design query, add the table, add the fields, this time selecting GPA, and then type my criteria. GPAs above 3.5 are greater than 3.5, so we will type greater than symbol followed by 3.5. This must be in the GPA column and in the criteria row. Now run the query. I will save it as high GPA. Finally, I want to run some queries with compound criteria. Queries with compound criteria are searching for records that meet more than one criterion. For example, let's say I want to combine the previous two criteria and search for all students that are 2013 graduates and who have GPAs above 3.5. To create this query, I begin in the same manner by clicking the Create ribbon, choosing Query Design, add the college table, add the fields that I want to see, including last name, first name, grad year, and GPA. Since I want both criteria to be true about every record that is extracted in this query, I am creating an AND query. This is done by typing the criteria in the same row and under the respective columns. 2013 for grad year, greater than 3.5 for GPA. Run the query. The result is all of the records that are students who are both 2013 graduates and their GPA is above 3.5. In a table this small, we can check to make sure that our query extracted the correct records. Bojangles was not extracted because his GPA is 3.5 exactly, not above 3.5. Thomas Stevens was not extracted because he is a 2014 graduate. As you can see, the only student who meets both criteria is Ted Jenkins. Now let's say I want a list of all 2013 graduates as well as any student whose GPA is above 3.5. This is called an OR query. To create this query, I'm going to return to the design view of my previous query by selecting the query, then pressing the Design View button. Notice the row underneath the criteria row is labeled OR. Change this query from an AND query to an OR query by simply moving one of the criteria down a row. Now I will run the query. This type of OR query is what's called an inclusive OR because it includes every record that is either a 2013 graduate or their GPA is above 3.5 or both, as is the case with Ted Jenkins.